The 2025 NFL Draft is less than a month away, so it's time to do another Detroit Lions 7-round mock draft. Let's jump into it. Hi, I'm Mike Payton with A to Z Sports Detroit. Today we're going to do another Detroit Lions 7-round mock draft with some twists, and we're going to have a little bit of fun with it. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. The Lions are going to start this whole thing off by making a trade up. Now, I know that obviously trading down could be fun for the Lions and make sense in some ways. They can grab extra players, get more picks. But the thing that makes more sense is that this roster seems like it's pretty much ready to go, and you are kind of more angling towards let's get some really good players. We're a few really good players away, maybe one or two. So in this instant, the Lions trade up. They're going to make a deal with the Denver Broncos. They're going to send the 28th pick, the 102nd pick from the third round, and a 2026 fourth round pick to the Broncos to move up to the 20th pick. The Broncos will also be sending back the 197th pick. So with the 20th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions are going to select Alabama linebacker Jahad Campbell. Now, I obviously know that Lions fans want this team to draft an edge rusher. It's the thing they want more than anything. And I don't think that you should look at Campbell as if he can't be that. I look at Jahad Campbell and I see a guy that fits the Lions mold in the sense that he could do a million things. He's a really good linebacker, solid in coverage, but can rush the passer too. He had 8 sacks last year. This guy, I think, could be like a positionless weapon almost. So you could use him in coverage as a linebacker, but you could also move him into that outside linebacker spot where he can rush the passer. And I think you can just get a ton out of him. I think he's one of the best players in this entire draft. And, trading up to 20 was no problem to make that deal. But even then, I still think, there's a chance he could probably go higher than that. So we'll see what happens. But Campbell, I love to the Lions with the first pick. All right. Now we're into the second round. We are going to make another trade. This time we're going to make a deal with the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to send the 60th pick in the second round along with a 2026 7th round pick to Arizona for the 78th pick in the third round and the 115th pick in the fourth round. With the 78th pick, the Lions take Josiah Stewart, edge rusher from Michigan. If you're a Wolverines fan, in addition to being a Lions fan, you know exactly what you're getting here. This is a guy who had 9 sacks last year, over 50 pressures. He could be a really great pass rusher for this team. I know you have Jahad Campbell in that kind of positionless weapon role, but here's another guy who could just simply help you out. He's a good edge rusher, good pass rusher. The Lions have paid a lot of attention to him so far. He's got a top 30 visit. They've done multiple virtual meetings with him. They talked to him at the Combine. They talked to him at his pro day. There seems to be a ton of interest in Stewart right now from the Detroit Lions. So keep an eye on this guy as time goes forward. With the 115th pick, the Lions are going to take Sacramento State offensive guard Jackson Slater. Now, he's an FCS guy. I think, Lions fans were probably hoping that the Lions might go offensive line earlier here, but as Brad Holmes says, we are not a needs-based drafting team. That's his quote. That's not me saying that. That's Brad Holmes saying that. They want the best player that they can get, and Slater is a very good steal out of the FCS. He was one of the best offensive linemen in the entire conference last year. This guy has not allowed a sack in 2 seasons with Sacramento State. He has not allowed a sack at just 13 pressures. There's something there. And I think, if you draft him and you have Christian Mahogany start and you have Graham Glasgow start at the other spot, you have a year's worth of development that you can have with Slater. And then 2026, he's your starter alongside Mahogany, and you have a nice little young interior offensive line there. This feels like a steal. This feels like a really good pick. One of those guys that is probably going to go a little bit higher than you might think he is, just, even though he's at Sacramento State, you think, well, it's a small school, but that stuff doesn't really matter anymore. The Lions do not care about that. They just drafted a guy from Canada last year. So this guy fits perfectly. With the 130th pick, the Lions are going to take Pat Bryant, wide receiver out of Illinois. Look, if you read my mock drafts, you know that I'm all about this guy. I think that if Dan Campbell were to go into a lab and make a wide receiver like he was Frankenstein, this would be the guy. This would be Dan Campbell's monster. Just a big bodied receiver, can go up, make contested catches, but can block and wants to block. One of the best blockers in the country in terms of receivers last year. Wants to punish other guys, wants to block, that's just Lions all the way. Plays as a former team captain. I mean, it's Dan Campbell. It's Dan Campbell style football right there. They have met with him formally at the combine. We'll see where things go going forward, but I believe this is a guy to watch. With the 196th pick, the Lions will take Ahmad Hassanin from Boise State. This is somebody that could be interesting because I think there's some interior defensive line availability there for him. He's almost like a Levi Onwuzurike type player. Definitely can get after the quarterback. He had 10 sacks last year, over 60 pressures. I think his pressures were top 5 in the entire country last year. Athletically, he's not as gifted as a Stewart or a Jahad Campbell is, but there's something there that he could bring to the table, and I think that is the versatility of having him on the outside and potentially on the inside as well. So I like Hassanin to the Lions this late in the draft. Then one pick later with the 197th pick, the Lions are going to take North Carolina guard Willie Lampkin. Now, I wrote about Willie Lampkin earlier this week because this is the most Brad Holmes type guy there is. He's a 5'11" guard who's undersized, and Brad Holmes has come out publicly multiple times, says he doesn't care about size. He doesn't care about arm size or measurables or any of the things that draft experts really care about. He cares about, can this guy play? And when you watch Lampkin, all you see is relentless effort from this guy. He plays really hard and he plays well. He's a good player. If he was 6'2", he'd probably be a day 2 pick. I think this is a really good player. Not only can you use him on the offensive line, but he could also be a defensive lineman, a tight end, a fullback. He could do a lot of different things for the Lions, kind of be almost like a Sione Vaki type player where he's just a positionless guy. You could do so much with him. Definitely someone to keep an eye on because I just think he fits the Lions so much. With the 228th pick, the Lions are going to take safety Dante Trader Jr. out of Maryland. I don't really know if the Lions need a safety so much because I think Avonte Maddox was signed to Detroit to play safety rather than playing corner. But here's a guy late in the draft. You see what you can get out of him. Why not? Give it a shot. With the 244th pick, the final pick for the Lions, they're going to take Central Florida running back Penny Boone, who is actually a Martin Luther King graduate here from Detroit, Michigan. This is an interesting one. The Lions have been looking at running backs a lot during the pre-draft process, and I think that they're kind of gearing up towards the future. David Montgomery's not going anywhere, and Jahmyr Gibbs is definitely not going anywhere. But eventually, they will need to kind of replace some depth on their roster, and eventually maybe David Montgomery will need to be replaced too. Boone can potentially be that. He's kind of a guy that can lower the shoulder and muscle his way through. Had a really, really good year for Toledo in 2023, then transferred over to Central Florida. Probably shouldn't have done that because he just didn't really fit for them. But it's interesting to see if he could be a late 7th round pick or an undrafted free agent. I think the Lions would love to have somebody like this on their team. He is coming in for the Lions local pro day, so they are going to get a look at him up close and personal. But I think running back is something that you should definitely think about the Lions drafting this year. That concludes our 7-round mock draft for the Lions. We will be doing another one closer to the draft, and we will see you then.